Today's topic is 3D type essential. 3D type means we can create 3D text in Photoshop. Now it's possible in Photoshop that we can create 3D text. Before we have to use some 3D softwares to make these kind of 3D effects. But now Photoshop has given so much of liberty to us to make 3D titles. So how we can create 3D? We can create 3D by putting some shapes, converting it to 3D. We can type a text and then convert it to 3D, or we can make a shape and then convert that shape into 3D. And how we can make shape? Through path, through selection tools. Okay, so these all can be converted into 3D. So, but all you know, if I'll say ki the word 3D, what all you know about 3D? Three dimension. Okay. So what are those three dimensions? Hmm. Okay. Huh. So what we are doing before is we are doing a perspective wrap. So what we are why we are doing perspective wrap? To give a different dimension to that view, है ना? So yes, now we are creating that third dimension. um, we always see in videos, in photographs, two axes, x and y, है ना? The visualization of third axis is called 3D, third dimension. Okay, so that is what we are going to create. So even now you know कि by applying some effects, है ना, bevel, emboss, we can even create some 3D kind of feel to text. Then why this 3D titling is different with that bevel and emboss? Exactly. So we can means we are able to see that 3D element, but now we can interact with those 3D elements. That is the difference between 3D and extrude or bevel and emboss. Okay. So there are many terms which we are using in at the time of making 3D. So today what I want you to learn all these terms so that how this will impact on our text or plane. This is today class will learn all these things, and tomorrow we'll apply all those to the text and elements. Okay. So first point, turning type into 3D. है ना? So how we can straight away convert anything to 3D is the important part, first of all. So let's open one. I'll open a blank. So we are working in 1920 1080. So definitely we'll work on this one, HD. Okay. We can work on any file, square pixels, and a rectangular, triangle. How? We cannot make triangles. So this is, I'm taking 1920 by 1080 at 200 ppi. Okay. So what is ppi, Sandeep? Yes, very good. And what is square pixel, Deva? What is square pixel? Yeah, the shape of one pixel inside the image, and that is square. Okay. So I opened this one. So let's quickly add a text. So what I have to do, I have to click text and just type, let's say craft again. Let's type craft. Now what I'll do, I'll make a size bigger by selecting the text. I'll just increase the size. Okay. So one more thing I want to bring here, uh, that you can see the size is in pixels. Okay, it's not in inches or something. So because we are working in pixels, so we definitely want these all increments of even the shape, size, movements, everything in pixel, 200 pixels, or not in inches. Unit and ruler. Here you can see there is a type unit, and if we'll make it to points or millimeters, and if I click OK, and now you can see the size is in mm. Okay, so but we need this one in pixels because we are working in pixels, so definitely we'll go to unit and ruler and then make it to pixels, and even ruler we can make it in pixels, है ना? And one more thing to make 3D, one more thing we can do in the settings, that is preferences 3D, and here we can take the quality of the shadows high, very high or medium as per the performance of our system. Let's make it to high, and threshold will make it to 7. So I press OK, and now let's move on. Let's add this one for. Okay, so now we are on text layer, we created a font. So how we can convert this text into 3D is the important point. So what we have to do, we can even go to 3D this time and click here, and here we can select new 3D extrusion from selected layer. Okay, or what we can do is we can right click here and at the bottom new 3D extrusion from selected layer. Okay, so first of all let's start from here. So as soon as I click, so it asks, are you about to create a 3D? Would you like to switch to the 3D workspace? Yes, actually we want this because we are moving to 3D. Yes, we need 3D workspace of Photoshop now. So timeline we don't need, but we are converted to 3D workspace. So what all difference it came? There is one timeline option. If we want to add some means layers and all and move that elements, make some animation. So that is what we need, but we always do animations in After Effects, so we'll not use this one in Photoshop. Okay, but for smaller points, this is what they made. You can make layers and then animate putting them, and you can animate like editing. Okay, so what things changed is the interface. Now you can see there is a grid on the bottom and the text is placed. There are few points, that is orbiting, that is panning and zooming. Okay, and this this one is light, source light. Yes. Okay. We can place light so that how this words can eliminate where the shadow will get. So to make that we can create light, but this is the light, this is automatic light, this is workspace lighting we call, because if any light, no light is there, you cannot see anything. So what we are looking is as per this light, but we can change these all things, lighting and all part, but this icon is for light. Another is now text, you can see, and on the top right you can see there is one orbiting. If I click here and I can orbit the text now. Okay, let's make it undo, and if I click second button, now this is for rotating. Okay, if I click now I can rotate. Okay, on third, that is moving. Okay, and the fourth button is for zooming. Okay, and this fifth button is for scaling, scale. Okay, so what we are doing is we are scaling, we are not moving to z axis, this is moving to axis, you know, this is moving to z axis, and this is moving to y axis. Okay, so let's move this one here, and let's click this and zoom, and here you can see these all are for, before what we are doing is we are orbiting the text, now we are orbiting the scene. Okay, even we can orbit the scene from these two because we selected the craft here, so that is why when I am orbiting, the craft is moving. And if I select the scene here, the scene is the entire screen. Now if I move, the whole screen will move. Okay, so now you can see the text went down this. We'll come to that, but let's make it to ground. I'm not telling how you are make this, but let's move another step at this stage. That is, we can even, because we selected the scra, now let's move this one. Okay. Select and hold, and now I'll make it down. Okay, just placed an angle. So the angle is then active camera. Okay, which camera? The camera we are placed like default camera. So this is the default camera angle which we has used, but what we are doing is we are just orbiting, and as soon as I click, we reach to our default camera position. Okay, we can even change the lenses with a camera, the 35 mm, 85 mm. So this is where you can do these all things. The depth, how much blur you want to create, how sharp you want your image, the focus, that is all can be controlled with camera. So one layer is camera, another layer you are looking is craft, one is light, and one is scene, current view. Okay, scene. The scene is the total viewpoint. The light which you are looking is, this is the light and it's falling onto the subject. I can even move these lights. Let's just see the shadows now. If I click this and I can move this, you can see now the shadows are changing its position. So that is what we are controlling with lights. Let's make it undo, put it on scene, and let's, so I'll bring this one on the frontal side. Okay, so now if we want to see right now, what you can see is we are not able to see colors, anything na. So how we can see that one? Going to 3D and clicking on render 3D layer. Okay, if I click here, now it will calculate the scene. Because we didn't applied anything, just we converted the text into 3D. There is no color, nothing inside it, and by a lights it's showing some colors and all. So now you can see it's rendering the scene, and it's showing us how this scene will look like. Okay, we'll do each and everything, how we can change fonts, how we can uh, are we able to rechange fonts if we are in 3D. So at any time, this is a very long process. So I'll put escape. Okay, as putting escape, it's coming back to the scene. Now even what we can do is we can click this marquee tool and select the area. Let's say I don't want to preview each and every part, I want to just see how it's looking. So I can even select a selective part, and then I can start render and see the final image of this particular area. Now this will not calculate the full area, this will show you how this is looking. So we always using this marquee tool just to give a how the effect is looking to us, you know, if I change something. So let's escape, and as soon as I click anywhere, so now that will get flashed. So the windows, on the window side, what you want now, what you are seeing is the property window. On the property now it's showing us some 3D things. Okay, on the first is mesh. Mesh is the text which we are created. Okay, on the second it's deform. Deform is how we can control the bevel, emboss, you know, depth. The third is the angle of moving of this bevel, emboss. And fourth is the coordinates. Coordinates are the one we can using, even we can move pan right left, you know, that is what we are doing when we selected this. Okay. So I'll, and bottom you can see there are inflation materials, bevel materials, extrusion materials, and there are some more materials. So if I click at one point you can see here are the diffusion, specular, emulsions, ambient. So these are the terms which I want you to know first, okay, so that what we are changing will impact how to this text is very, very important. So let's come to our next point, that is, let's learn some terms of 3D. Now you are aware of how what all texts are there: roughness, bumps, opacity, diffuse. But what are these terms? Okay, how this will impact our text is most important. So first is extrusion. So what is extrusion? Let's first click this text now. uh, Now what I want, let's see this. I'll orbit. Let's orbit the scene. So let's see the scene from this angle. So I'll just increase the size. And now let's come to scene. So what is extrusion? The distance of thickness, okay, of the text is extrusion. So if I click on this text and I come to the first point, that is mesh. Mesh is what it's treating, it treating this text as an path and extruding that path to create a depth. So if I'll click on first property by clicking the text layer, if I click on first, that is called mesh. So on mesh there is a extrusion depth. So if I increase this depth, you can see now I am able to increase the thickness of the 3D font. So the less it is, the 2D it will look. The more it is, the more thickness it will. Okay. So, so increasing the size of extrusion. So let's see what extrusion is. Sandeep. ठीक है. So now what it's, as I told, key extrusion always taking the path. So what is the path here is the text. It's taking text as a path. Let's take a shape layer. I'll go to shape layer, freeform shape, and let's off at this stage. I'll take any shape, maybe let's say outlines. I want color, maybe black, white, doesn't matter at all at this stage. And I'll make this shape. So let's change the background to some other color. Let's choose one gradient. So this is the shape which is drawn through path. Okay. So what I want, even we can convert this shape into 3D. So that is what I want to tell here. So what I have to do, I have to create new extrusion. I click, and now if I go to scene and rotate this in, you can see now the simple looking shape is converting into 3D. We can even control, let's go to shape, and we can even control the depth. So this is how we can make logos and all. So this is what this point is telling us. We can even create layers with shapes, text and all. Okay. So how, what we have to do is we have to extrude them so that it will convert to 3D. So how extruding is different? How extruding is look? So this is extruding. So now you can see this is extruding. Okay. So second term is twist. So if I'll come again back to this shape layer, let's zoom this scene. Now if I click on this shape layer and I'll come to the second point, that is deform, here is the point twist. Okay. So what twist will do? Twist will, Devang?
Twisting refers to rotating or con- contorting motion.
Contorting motions. Okay. So what twisting is does? it will rotate the mesh. Mesh is the path. Okay. So if I'll come to this second point, deform, here is the button that is called twist. So if I twist, so now you can see we can twist our layers. So if I move this one, so you can see our text or our shape is twisted. So let's make undo. So twisting is twisting our subject to another shape. Okay, just twisting it up. So another term is tapering. So now you can see if I'll go in the deform button, the second button is tapper. Okay, so what is tapper? If I click, it's changing the extrusion. Okay, it's making it big and making it smaller like this. Okay, so now let's see what is tapering. So yes. Hmm. So now you can see what is tapering is when our extrude will get narrower or bigger. Okay. So if I increase tapering, that will bigger or narrower. So let's increase the extrude part and let's increase the taper. And let's come to scene. Now you can see it's going narrower. Sometime in 3Ds, many logos you saw that is not done here, but in 3D we can even control the keyframes. The logos are coming like this, Bollywood Dhamaka and all. This is how they build the logo, and that is all done in 3D by this tapering. So how they are doing is by first frame, this logo is at first position, and on the second they put a keyframe, and that tapper will go ahead. So now you are able to connect with a 3D software how they are working in 3Ds. But this is just for an idea. We are not doing animating these all things. That cannot be possible in Photoshop. Maybe that is possible with timeline. Let's see. I'll check it out. But I didn't used this all effects in Photoshop. To do these all effects, either we have to move to 3D Max or Cinema 4D is the second software we are using these all things. But what I want to show here is what is tapering. So let's move on to another term that is bending. So now we know extrude, we know tapering is the third term, bending.
into a curve or
है
angle.
ना? So bending is when something is straight and we are bending. Bending is not this is something else. This is bending, है ना? Coming forward or going backward is bending. So let's come again to the shape. So now you can see we can even bend our, this is bend. Okay, so we can bend our text or image. So if I click x-axis, that will work on x-axis. So this is bending. So let's move on to the next point, that is shear. Okay, so now if I click shear and now if I move, so some different thing is going on. You know, bending and shear. This is bending and this is shear. Let's rotate the scene. Now you can see this is how this looks. And if I move to bend, and now let's move this scene again, and this is how ये कर रहा है. Okay, so now let's see what is the difference between bending and, so shape or force into a curve is bending. Where is shape? Shape. So okay, so this is what we can control with this second term, shape. We can convert anytime. So twisting with bending with extrusion with taper. Now let's come to another point, that is bevel.
Beveling. A
Okay.
slope from the horizontal or vertical in carpentry and stonework, a sloping surface or edge.
Okay, so now we can see this is extrude, but on the top, this part, this is extrude, this is bevel. Okay, this is not extrude. The top surface, when the top surface change its shape, that is bevel, and when we increase the depth, that is extrude. Okay, let's click this one. Let's go back to layer. I'll open this one, I'll hide. So you can see both the shapes are in same. Let's click this one, but we are not able to control. We'll do that one also, but let's off this one and let's open this in 3. So where we are? We are at bevel, है ना? So bevel is controlled by this shapes. The rendering part is taking so much time. It always takes so much time. That is why we need a very high-end graphic cards to make some 3D environment. Even 3D artists having a very heavy machines. So now you can see what bevel is controlling is the edges, edges of this front shape. Extrude is the depth. Now we are controlling the sharpness of the edges. We can even control up, down, and something. So let's escape this one. Mm. If I'll change, you can see this is changing. Now flat, curvy. This is most of the time you found the text like these shapes. है ना? This is puffing. So before we are doing puffing emboss, है ना? Pillow emboss in text in FX. Now this FX is very different from that. है ना? You can even see. So different extrudes bring, bevel brings different styles. So let's stick to one. Let's say this one, and this is texture mapping. This is something else. And now if I control the scene and let's go zoom to this, so you can see this. So this is called bevel. Okay, let's make a. So now you can see how 3D animations are they are doing. They are just controlling these all angles and all. Some texts are coming like this, and then they are rotating like this, and a camera is going inside of any text like this, and then it's coming back, and even the single text are also animating. This is how 3D artists work in text and all. है Let's move on to what is the difference between bevel and extrude. So what is the difference between bevel and extrude? Yes. Hmm.
Extrusion generates a vanishing point so that the objects appear to diminish as they approach that point. Beveling is similar to extrusion, but it is usually applied to shapes or curves to transform them into 3D objects.
Hmm. So extrusion generates a vanishing points. Definitely, when I increase the extrusion, it's creating a vanishing point. So what is vanishing point? Where the line intersects and match. So always whenever I extrude the text, let's come this. If I'll click this and extrude, it always create a vanishing point. At one point, it will get uh, reach to the edge, है ना? The point. So, but what bevel is doing, but bevel is doing is the sharpness, shapes to the uh, front. इसको what we call this is the face. Okay, giving shapes to the face. Sharper edge. Yes, exactly. So this is extrude, and this is bevel. So now clear now?
Yes.
So by these all terms, we are able to create some 3D titles and all. You know what we want? Do we want inner bevel? Do we want outer bevel? Is inner bevel with sharper edges or with the smoother edges? You know, do we want extrude it or intrude it? Means reverse. If I'll make reverse, now it's coming front. Okay. Before it's going back, now it's coming front. So this is also can minus. So where we are going is minus. Okay. And let's move on to another topic. Here we learn is the reflections. Yeah.
The return of light or sound waves from surface and image proceed produced by or as if by a mirror.
So let's ignore this sound waves because refractions always from sounds and even lights, है ना? So when light hits some surface, है ना? And then it will get reflect. And how that subject is means how that surface is, it's all depend the nature of reflection, है ना? If the surface is mirror, the reflection is something else. If the surface is pebble or means stone, the reflection is work something else. So this is what how we can give materials to the text. Like if we want more shiny, definitely we have to give more shiny materials to them, so that when light which we are placing in here, this light when it hit there, that will get reflections. So which reflection this will get? Maybe the some other text, maybe the outer surface area which we create, है ना? I'll place some means maybe some object outside this plane, maybe here, and when light hit, that will reflect these into this, है ना? That is the atmosphere we are creating for the reflections. Okay, so where we can control reflection? So this is not here. Okay, this is not here at all. If I click on text, there is no control of reflection. So which part is controlling reflection is the material part. Okay, what material we are applying? Is this text is chrome? Is this text is stone? Is this text is wooden? So that is why it will reflect, है ना? If the material is something else, if we'll put a light here, this wooden part will not reflect like a metal, है ना? So even what we can do is we can put different materials to different sides. We can give extrude a different material, we can give front a different material. This is all we can make to make the text more shine. So
Luster difference are there.
yes, so how we can create reflection? If I click any of below these front inflation materials, so wherever the material is written, okay, I select that. Now that property is changing to some other materials. Okay, now you can see there are some diffuse, specular, emulations, ambient, shine, reflections, roughness, bump, opacity, refractions. And on the right hand side is materials. Okay, so let's select all of them this time and go to this material and let's click this one shiny material. Okay, now because it is so shiny, I have to maybe intensity down the light this time because it's more reflective, more shiny. So how much intensity I need, I don't know at this stage. So let's make a render. Let's see how this is looking now. I'm not rendering every part. By this, if you will means at any time when you will able to learn 3D and all na, this will help you out very well. Ki everything is having same terms, means extrude, reflection, applying of material. Even in when we go to After Effect, these are the terms we use. No 3D is going beyond these terms. Another thing, they are having more functions into 3D softwares to make some more dimensions. So now you can see a very simple looking text is having some dimensions now. The top, because top is the edges, so when something will reflect, the light will reflect to the edge, that will shine more. Definitely that will shine more. So that is how this is behaving. How to place light, how to cast shadow, I will let you know each and every part, but right now what I want is you have to see what all things are going here. If I want to make a means watery kind of text, you know it's seeing through that, so that is also we can able with this materials and all. Okay. So now you are getting an idea, the light is creating shadow, the shadows are very hard, we can even soft these shadows. Even the text inside is also making some shadows, that is also we can control to cast shadow or not to cast shadow. So let's escape at this stage. So this is how it's looking. Let's slightly zoom it back, maybe undo. I'll go to scene, I'll click make it from far, and let's look from here. And now let's render full. I'll deselect marquee tool. So as soon as I'm going to some other, that is not showing the grid, and as soon as I coming to selection tool, it's showing the grid, the surface. And now let's create one full render. Okay. Now you will see how the light is casting shadows on the ground. कितना दिखा रहा है? We will take one or two passes and then we'll escape that. हाँ, वो तो दिखाएगा वो तो. Let's make some one more passes because अभी थोड़ा सा pixel है, so that you will get a clear idea कि how the shape is getting. है ना? Now you can see a simple looking text is coming up with some shapes and all. So it's casting shadows. Shadows are harder. We can even make it softer. These shadows are softer. It's casting shadows inside, and that is all we can control with lights and reflections. So let's again come to this. So what is reflections? Reflections are when the light reach to one point and then it will reflect. If I increase this reflection, that will increase the reflection of this text. Let's zoom at very smaller point. Let's select this point only and make okay. You can see the intensity of light is so much right now. We have to decrease the color it's creating. Due to this surface, it's creating a diffusion of yellow. So what 3D designers are doing, they are generally taking the reflection to 100% so that the text will shine so much. You know, you had seen the recent logo of Aaj Tak. They just moved something inside the, so that is what is moving is the reflections. The objects are outside that text, that is reflecting onto the text, and when they are rotating that text, it's taking the reflection of that outside materials. We are not able to see those objects, but that is reflecting inside that. That is how we can use reflections. Okay, to show the atmosphere, you can see this system, it's showing the reflections now. The things we are seeing in this is not present inside that, that is outside the boundaries. Atmosphere, that is the atmosphere, and it's showing that atmosphere. So if we have to show atmosphere inside the text, what we have to use is, we have to use reflections. So let's escape this one. Let's move on to, so this is, the color, the light, the reflection, and this is we are seeing as a gradient. So let's move on to another point, that is refraction. Before it is reflection and now it is refraction. So what is refraction?
Refraction is the bending of light. It also happens with sound, water, and other waves, as it passes from one transparent substance into another. This bending by refraction makes it possible for us to have lenses, magnifying glasses, prisms, and rainbows.
है ना? So if the objects are transparent, opaque, or means not fully transparent, the ice and all, what we can do, if we put a light there, we can see behind that, and even uh, because the shape is there, the reflection of light is moving to some different direction, and that create this kind of effect, and that can be controlled by refractions. Okay, so refraction make it opaque, opaque है ना? If you want to create water, what you have to increase? Refraction. You have to increase refractions because you want to see through it. If you want to see through it, you have to increase refractions. If you want to reflect some atmosphere, you have to increase reflections. So this is the difference between refractions and reflections. Okay. So another is bump map. So 3D objects always see things in a plane. है ना? It don't even see that there is some up and down side of any image. So how we let them know कि this is the surface having bumps on it? That is where the bump maps come in. Bump maps is an image just having black and white values, and we map these bumps on this plane surface, and that will show the texture into it. Okay, so this black always show the depth, the downside, and white will always show plane. So it's a difference between white and black pixels. The more black, the bigger bump. The smaller black, the smaller bump. Okay, so we always create bumps to add textures to the, even this titles, shapes, or any object. So how we can create those bumps? This is bumping. So how much bump I want? So which is the diffusion panel? This is the diffusion panel. We can even create new texture, we can add texture, edit texture. We add some texture and we create a bump to enhance that texture. You know, do we need more texture to get prominent, or we need less texture to get prominent? Do we need it plain or do we need it textured? And texture in 3D is not plain, it's upside down, है ना? That is when we touch something, that touch will see in this 3D. If I'll bump this one, you can see this keyboard is not plain, it's bump, the depth and upside. So what we are creating is white and black points of this image, huh? And the black, the more deeper the black is, the more bump it will show, and the white area will make it plain so that the original image will show here. If I have to place this keyboard onto this plain area, what I have to do, I have to create one map, diffusion map, and one plane surface area, and then I map those things and then increase the bump so that it will show us the depth. Okay, the depth, that is what it's showing, है ना? The plain image with texture and increase of bump is creating a texture to it. So let's read this.
Bump map creates the illusion of depth and texture on the surface of a 3D model using the computer graphics. Texture are artificially created on the surface of object using the grayscale and simple lightning tricks rather than having to manually create individual bumps and cracks.
Hmm. So So if I have to create these bumps into this without having this map, what I have to do, I have to delete pixels from this image. Then it will create that bumps now. Or what I can do, I can map the image on it and increase the depth, how much depth I want to create. And that is what this is creating. This is the easiest way to create textures. Okay. So this is what we are, and why these bumps will show us, because when we put light, the depth, the distance inside will always become shadowy, है ना? And the top surface is always becoming lighty. So that is why we are getting illusion that the texture is there. Okay. So let's move on to another point, and how we can increase bumps and all. In material, in the properties, there is a bump. How much bump we want, we will increase this. Because we didn't applied any texture, so we cannot. So let's say we'll put another texture like this. Now we can even, you can see the bump is totally high automatically. So if I create 3D and make render, now you can see, even you can able to see the texture that it's going inside and coming up. So we can apply multiple textures to this, and automatically this texture having a bump 200, so that this will look like there is a depth inside. If I decrease this bump, it will get plain. Okay. So the texture is always, we can even create our own textures, but Photoshop is also giving us so much of texture, even it would, it's taking so much of time. So you will get an idea ki how this is looking. It's a plane, but it's looking like 3D. How? Bump. So if I decrease the bump, now this is just a plane image. This bump is giving it the 3-dimensional feel. Clear? So let's move to next point, that is specular map. So before, what we are doing is we are putting a bump map. Now we are putting the specular map. So specular maps are the light intensity on any object, है ना? The more specular, you can see some person's skin is so shiny, some person's skins are dull. So how? Because there is less specularity in that. Now the metal is more specular. आपने कभी metal को देखा होगा? That will be more shiner. Why? Because the specularity of that material is high, है ना? So when I hit the light on that, that will be more, what I can say, it's more, नहीं, more,
Scattering.
that adopt light so easily that it reflecting the light so much. That is why the specularity is coming, है ना? The surface is reflecting the light so much, है ना? If I hit the light here, the specularity will be less. So if I want to use reflections, I also have to increase specularity, because I need light to go back with a higher intensity. If it's going with a lesser intensity, the reflections will go lesser, smaller, very faded kind of reflection. If I need a bigger reflections like that Mac, what is showing, that is higher reflections with specularities. Huh? So specularity is the shyness. You can see these shyness is the specularity, the light it's taking to show. So where we can control this specularity? Here. If I click on any material, on the properties in the material panel, there is a specular point. If I click this, I can even, so you can see it's going dark or making light. So we can create, it's showing us the shades. So even we can create light colored specularity, or we can even create black and white specularity. The lesser specularity is equals to softer subject, the higher specularity is the sharpest of light. When you see in eyes, you can see the specularity. Look at Devang's eyes, है ना? The dot, that is specularity, the specularity of light. So if this light is so smoother, the softer, the bigger, this small little dot will get bigger, है ना? Because the bigger light source having a lesser specularity. And we can even, because we are in 3D, so we let our texture know you don't have to specular. You don't have to reflect light. You don't have to calculate this light and let us know. है ना? Even on a reflective surface, we can stop the specularity also. I am coming. So the next is specular map. आपके सारे डाउट्स मुझे पता है क्या क्या हो सकते हैं, तो मैंने पूरा डिजाइन ही वैसे करता हूँ. So specular map. So you can see this is specular, है ना? Specular means the shininess on the surface. The shininess on the surface. The higher, now you can see it's on hardness and it's on softness. Okay, and here is the specularity. Intensity, small specularity, bigger and higher specularity. Okay, and this is very soft, more soft and totally soft. This is called diffuse. When the specularity is soft, that is called diffuse. Okay, so if we have to, if the light is putting so much hardness, so much light to the subject, what we have to do is we have to diffuse that light. That is the term the camera persons are using. Diffuse the light. Use diffusers. Diffuse the light. Why you want to diffuse the light? Because it's creating specularity, the sharpness, the shineness, and we don't want that. If I'm controlling the light, do anyone? Let's put some light here. I'll take my one. Let's. So you can see the specularity here and here. So this is specularity. If I diffuse this light, so now there is no specularity. Even the light is there. Look, light is there. Let's put this white. So you can see this shiny surface.
फोन की क्लास में शायद ज़्यादा अच्छे से हो रहा है.
नहीं, उस phone पे नहीं. Let's hold this one. Let's give one paper to me. नहीं, paper. Tear down the paper. हाँ, okay. आप ऐसे ही दे दो. So let's see this specularity. So if I take, it's getting smaller. Now it's getting eliminated. So what we are doing is we are diffusing the light. So you can see the light is specular. It's creating specularity. And if we'll diffuse this light, then it will go to diffusion. So what we are using is diffusion map. This is diffusion map between this light source and object. Okay. So that is not be able, we can not able to see this in 3D, but we can control that with diffusion. Okay. So if the specularity is high, let's say specularity is high, so what we can even control is diffusion. So the material will less reflective will get softer, the material with a more reflective will get specular. And this is both. Specular is this and diffusion is this. Okay, clear? Rest everything is same, the texture is same, the light is same, but the intensity, how bigger the specular is and how smaller the specular is. So why the specularity will be more bigger? Because the light intensity is more. If the light intensity will be smaller, means less, the specular will be small. The less area will get specular, na? But if the light is so much bright, the more area will get specular. And if it more bright, then it will get white. That is how the color reacts, na? So this is what we are, that all the reflection, the color intensity is created by specular maps. So this is all for 3D. These are all the terms we'll use. Opacity, yes, you know what is opacity. Roughness, you know what is roughness. That is the roughness of edges, or shine, you know, shine. So these are the very small. Illumination, to illuminate something or not to illuminate. If I want light not to illuminate this background, I can even do that. Means putting that material in the minus. So we can include materials or we can exclude materials to put some. And there is one light. If I open this light, there are some presets, automated purple phase. So now you can see the shyness and all. Let's just put one render. So you can see this specularity, the reflections, the light. So everything is about light and shadow. The angle of light will create a different kind of effect. And our material give us the opportunity to reflect in that light. That is how this all can be created. Where we put light is more important in 3D. So that is why lighting even in shooting videos are more important, because light is creating everything. Now you can see the flat looking image is now looking as a very dramatic. So this will take so much of time. I'll make it render for 5-10 minutes. So this is what I want to show you for 3D texting. And tomorrow we'll create one title effect, including these all things, and we'll create one title.
सर आपने ये कहाँ से fill किया था, ये जो आपने बीच में जो green color का जो
ये materials हैं.
अच्छा
These are only materials. मैंने यहाँ पे material put कर दिया बस. I can even, मैंने आपको बताया कि this is front bevel, this is extrusion, this is back bevel. So I will let you know कि कैसे हम change करते हैं. कब आज purpose जो था वो ये नहीं था कि हम कैसे change कर रहे हैं. आज का जो purpose था कि हम किस term का use कर रहे हैं. So that अगर tomorrow I will come up कि okay now will increase the reflections, so you will know कि what I am doing and where I am going. Okay. So let's say कि I will say कि I'll change the material of this extrusion. So if I'll straight away go there, you will not even know कि what is extrusion, where he is doing. है ना? He is always putting everything on this text, but why he is saying extrusion, why he is saying bevel, why he is saying front? Because there are 3 terms in this text: extrusion, front, and bevel. And same in map also. Then the light is part is specular, diffusion, reflection, refraction, soft, bump. Bump is for texture. So this is it for today's class.